Chosen one, don't scroll. Don't ignore this. Read this slowly, because this message is not for everyone. It's for the ones who have been losing people, losing plans, losing versions of themselves, and secretly wondering, why is everything falling apart when I'm trying so hard to hold it together? Right now, you might feel like life is taking more than it's giving, like things are being taken away from you, like doors are closing instead of opening, like people are leaving instead of staying, like the future you imagined is slowly disappearing. And in your heart, you're asking one silent question. God, why? Why this loss? Why this distance? Why this rejection? Why this delay? Why this pain? But what if I told you something that changes everything? What if I told you that God is not destroying your life? He is removing you from what would have destroyed you. Sometimes the biggest protection doesn't look like safety. It looks like loss. It looks like endings. It looks like being forced to walk away. It looks like being pushed out of places you felt comfortable in. You see abandonment. God sees escape. You see heartbreak. God sees rescue. You see chaos. God sees intervention. You see everything collapsing. God sees everything being rearranged. Because not everything that feels good is good for you. And not everything that hurts is meant to harm you. Some things are removed because they were slowly killing your spirit, your future, your peace, your potential. And you didn't even realize it. Let's be honest for a moment. There were people you were attached to who drained you. There were situations you stayed in that made you smaller. There were environments that normalized pain. There were habits that kept you stuck. There were versions of yourself that were surviving, not living. But you stayed because it felt familiar, because it felt safe, because you were afraid of being alone, because you didn't want change, because you didn't want to start over. So God stepped in, not to punish you, not to hurt you, but to save you from what you were too emotionally attached to leave on your own. Sometimes God doesn't remove the danger. He removes you from the danger. He doesn't always change the situation. He changes your position in it. He doesn't always fix the person. He moves you away from them. Because if he waited for you to realize on your own, you would have stayed too long. You would have sacrificed yourself. You would have lost your identity. You would have settled for less than your destiny. So he intervened. And it hurts, because protection doesn't always feel gentle. Sometimes it feels like being ripped away from what you thought was your whole world. Think about it. How many times did you pray for clarity, but God gave you separation? How many times did you ask for peace, but God removed people? How many times did you beg for answers, but God gave you endings? At the time, you thought it was cruelty, but now you're starting to see. If that relationship had continued, you would have lost yourself. If that job had stayed, you would have burned out. If that lifestyle had gone on, you would have stayed stuck. If that friendship had survived, your growth would have died. You thought God took something from you, but in reality, he took you out of something. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Some blessings come disguised as losses. Some answers come disguised as rejections. Some miracles come disguised as endings. Because God cares more about your future than your comfort. He cares more about your soul than your attachments. He cares more about your growth than your feelings. So he removes what feels good but leads nowhere. And he keeps what feels hard but leads to purpose. Right now, you're probably in that season. A season where things don't make sense. A season where people don't understand you. A season where you feel disconnected from your old life. A season where nothing feels stable anymore. You don't fit where you used to. But you're not fully in the new place yet. So everything feels awkward, uncertain, empty, quiet, lonely. But this is not destruction. This is transition. This is what it feels like when God is pulling you out of something that would have eventually destroyed you. Let me say this clearly. If God is removing things from your life, it's not because you're losing. It's because you're outgrowing. You're outgrowing people who only knew the old version of you. You're outgrowing situations that require you to shrink. You're outgrowing environments that limit your potential. You're outgrowing patterns that keep you in survival mode. And growth always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Because the old life fights back. Your comfort zone fights back. Your emotions fight back. Your memories fight back. Your fears fight back. But God doesn't negotiate with what's holding you back. He removes it. You think God is taking too much, but God thinks you've been carrying too much. Carrying emotional weight, carrying toxic bonds, carrying expectations that aren't yours, carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you, carrying responsibilities that drain you. So he starts lightening your load, not by adding more, but by subtracting what's unnecessary. And subtraction always feels painful before it feels peaceful. There are things God sees that you don't. He sees the conversations that would have damaged your confidence. He sees the environments that would have normalized your suffering. He sees the people who would have used your heart. He sees the paths that would have wasted your time. So he blocks them. He removes them. He disconnects you. He delays you. He isolates you, not because he wants you alone, but because he wants you safe. Safe from becoming someone you're not. Safe from settling for less. Safe from losing your soul to things that don't serve your destiny. Here's something deep. Some of the pain you avoided in the future is the pain you're feeling now. God is letting you feel temporary discomfort so you don't experience permanent damage. Short-term loneliness instead of long-term misery. Short-term confusion instead of lifelong regret. Short-term heartbreak instead of losing yourself completely. He's choosing the lesser pain for you, even if you don't understand it yet. And the hardest part, God rarely explains what he's saving you from. He doesn't show you the alternate timeline. He doesn't show you the version of life that would have broken you. He doesn't show you the future you escaped. He just moves you and asks you to trust. So all you feel is loss, not protection. All you see is endings, not rescue. But one day you'll look back and realize, that almost ruined me. That almost destroyed me. That almost trapped me. That almost cost me my purpose. And you'll quietly say, God, thank you for removing me when I was too blind to leave. Right now, you might be grieving something God removed. A person, a dream, a chapter, a version of your life. And that's okay. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to miss it. You're allowed to mourn what could have been. But don't confuse grief with failure. Grief just means you cared. It doesn't mean God was wrong. Sometimes God ends something you loved to save something you haven't met yet. The reason this hurts is because you're emotionally attached to what God is spiritually detaching you from. Your heart is still holding on, but your soul is already moving forward. That's why you feel split inside. One part of you wants to go back. The other part of you knows you can't. One part of you misses the past. The other part of you craves growth. One part of you wants comfort. The other part of you wants peace. And peace always requires letting go. God is not cruel. He's precise. He doesn't remove randomly. He removes intentionally. He removes what limits your growth, drains your energy, blocks your future, distorts your identity, keeps you in survival mode. Even if it looks good on the outside, even if it feels safe, even if it's familiar, because God doesn't protect your comfort. He protects your calling, and right now you are being protected, even if it feels like everything is falling apart, even if it feels like nothing makes sense, even if it feels like you're losing more than you're gaining. You're not being punished, you're being rescued, you're not being rejected, you're being redirected, you're not being broken. You're being pulled out of what would have eventually destroyed you. One day, you will understand why it had to end. Why that door closed. Why that person left. Why that version of your life disappeared. Not everything that feels like loss is loss. Some losses are divine protection. God didn't remove you to hurt you. He removed you to save you. To keep you from becoming someone you were never meant to be. You weren't rejected. You were redirected. And when you finally see what God was saving you from, you won't cry over what you lost. You'll thank him for what you escaped.